Hello friends, and welcome back to The Whole Home for a summer catch-up on everything that's happening in our world in a more chatty, podcasty, non-topic video way. I like to do these every now and again because otherwise every video is about something in particular and is a little snippet of life. And sometimes I think it's nice to just have a catch-up on some of the different things that maybe I haven't made a video about, or different things that are happening, or journeys that aren't worth a video yet, and maybe never will be, but are very much part of our life. So we're going to talk about all kinds of things. There is no need to watch. It'll just be my face and my tea that I got from they gave it to me at the health food shop. It's some kind of chocolatey tea, which feels wrong for the summer, but here we are. Also, I have no mic for this video, so I hope you can hear me. My phone, which is what I use to record videos, is broken. And we're really trying to repair things rather than buy new. So my phone is old. It doesn't even have the 3 cameras on the back, but with ethics and phones, we try to just keep them old and secondhand always and use them for as long as we can. So this is coming to you on an old iPhone. So we're waiting for parts to come in so we can use a local company to repair my old secondhand iPhone. So I can't plug in my mic, but I thought we would do a summer catch up. Anyway, so put the sound up. I hope you can hear me. That is why there's no mic today. If this is your first time watching, hi, welcome to my 850 square feet in the south of England. This is probably a weird first video to watch because it's not about any one thing in particular. We're going to talk about neurodiversity and the garden and our ducks and flexi-schooling and the stages of motherhood and how I am in one of those changes right now and what I'm doing with it. A whole bunch of different little things. That's just a picture of what our life is like right now, because that's kind of what all the other videos sit in. So I think the context is helpful and it's nice just to have a chat sometimes. So say hi in the comments, tell me where you're watching from, because I'm just looking out the window onto my garden and talking to an old iPhone in a broken iPhone cover. Ask any questions so we can chit chat in the comments, because I do actually enjoy that. I know people say it to help the algorithm or whatever, but it's actually nice to hear who you are and where you're watching from. Anyway, hi if you're new, hi if you've been here before. Let's dive in. I have just come in from the garden. My hands are tingling. We've spent the last 2 weeks hanging out with family and we have not been home much. My sister comes in town every summer from New York, and so the cousins have all been together and it's been glorious. This morning I got out in the garden and ripped so many things out, and I just gave up caring about stinging nettles. And so my hands are tingly from all of that is tingling. So it's fun. My fingernails are dirty, but I'm really happy because it means I have been outside. Let's start with how life looks at the moment in terms of parenting. I've been a parent for almost a decade. And I think one of the hardest things for me in parenting is how it constantly changes. I like to kind of find my groove in what's happening. And then as soon as I do, there's a new rhythm. Right now, my oldest is 9, then I have 7 and 3, and we're hitting the stage where our evenings don't exist anymore. And we've always been quite rigid about bedtime, but I feel like between all their activities, and I mean, they've stopped for the summer, so they've slowed down, but still driving them to play dates and things like that, and the fact that they no longer need to go to bed at 7, along with the beautiful, more deeply emotional stages that they're coming into that I love being a part of. I don't know how we find time. I don't know how we find time. And I both love it and feel like, ooh, we're gonna have to adjust some things here to find the time that I need outside of being with my kids. So we're currently in the oh, this is changing. We used to have at least 7:30 to 10:30, and now by the time everyone's tucked in bed, there's maybe half an hour and then it's my turn to go to bed. So there's this adjustment that we're definitely feeling right now. But in that, I've been reflecting so much on how I think parents put a lot of fear into me in the past about my kids growing up. And I actually love my kids growing up, but I think so many people, it's like the standard thing to say in parenting that oh, savor it all, it goes so fast. that it's put this kind of fear into me, like I'm going to lose something as my kids grow up. And I've just been reflecting recently about how, like, yes, my third kid is our last kid, and as she goes through every stage, it's the last. She had her 4th birthday. I won't have a 3-year-old again. These things are going. She's going to go to school. I will not have toddlers at home again. That's September. We'll talk more about that. But I am loving my kids growing up. My oldest, my 9-year-old, would like to spend every night on the sofa watching David Attenborough documentaries with me and telling me about animals and the facts that he's learned and the world and different regions and climates and people groups and world religions, and talking about it and watching documentaries. And I adore that. When he was 2, I loved him being 2. But you know what? We couldn't sit down and watch a documentary and talk about the Okavango Delta and how bird numbers matter and all of these things. Like, we couldn't talk about that. And I love the stage that we're in. So I feel like I want to talk about this more, that I think there's so much fear sometimes put into us as parents, and I want to treasure every stage of my kids. I soaked up every second of my now 4-year-old's birthday party and the fact that we are moving from one phase to another, and she's going to school and time is changing, but also the beauty of them getting older. I don't wish they were younger. I love them where they are, and I know, I am so aware it goes so fast. I'm probably halfway through having my oldest at home, and that feels very sobering, but I am loving the getting older stages as well. But also, there's no time is how I feel. So from that, the garden, this has been my worst year of gardening since I started gardening, and I feel a bit of a failure on it. I can easily go to failure if you know the Enneagram, which I don't necessarily love the Enneagram. I don't like being pinned into a box, but I am a 1, and failure is our vice. Fear of failure, and it is 100% my vice, fear of failing. My garden is a mess. Not because I haven't wanted to get out there, but because between ballet practices that I love and talking to my kids, which I love, and just being a parent in the house and all the other things, I have not had much time to get out into the garden. I don't know. But I really have a deep belief that if we have space to use and to grow and to help biodiversity and to help the different ecosystems, we have a big responsibility to use it well. So I don't get out into the garden just out of a guilt and responsibility. I love it. I love the food. I love the bees and the ducks. But I do at the same time feel this deep responsibility. I don't feel like I've done that well with it this year. So I'm trying to take that and plan well. From here on out, I'm trying to learn for next year. But we have tomatoes in, we have had a ton of greens. I've done a few cut flowers, which do actually bring me joy. I've dried some of them and saved them to put on things through the year, cakes and biscuits and things like that, which just feels like fun and will save us buying something later in the year. But the garden has been a place that I feel like has suffered as I've adjusted to this stage of parenting, and my brain, and what's felt like a bit of a chaotic year. Well, nothing's gone wrong, just a bit of chaos and me internally figuring out what I am doing with my life, which is another topic. I've not done a single video about the garden because I don't feel like there's anything to show, but I would like to do a video where I just walk around the garden and glean from anyone that wants to comment on what you would do with the garden, because it's not a box garden. There's a lot of little spaces with different amounts of sunlight and different water levels and things, like as in water in the ground, different sunlight, the front of the house, the back of the house. And I feel like there's a lot of people here who would say, I would do this here, I'd put strawberries there, I'd put another fruit tree there, I'd do this here. So I might do that sometime to glean from the wealth that I know is on YouTube. Also in the garden are our ducks, which earlier this year we hatched 6 ducklings for the first time. Never hatched anything before. That was a wild ride. I did not know what I was getting myself into. I thought you popped the eggs in the incubator and out came ducklings. No, that might be more true with chickens, not true with ducklings. I now know. We put in 8 eggs, 6 were fertile. We got out 6 ducklings, but not without a lot more gray hair and emotional anxiety and waking up at 3 in the morning to painstakingly pick ducklings out of their shells. You can watch the whole thing, I'll put the video below. because I filmed it at 3 o'clock in the morning while I was picking ducklings out of their shells. So worth it. I also gained a ton of knowledge I will never need again, probably. Well, we now have these 6 ducklings who are now fully grown ducks in the backyard. Well, you're supposed to be able to introduce ducklings to big ducks. They were all supposed to live together. No, they absolutely hate each other, which is unideal because we have 1 duck space. So currently we're kind of figuring that out, trying to find homes for a few drakes. They still hate each other. It is not working. Well, 2 days ago, in the middle of having these 2 sets of ducks that despise each other, one of our mum ducks, so we incubated them because they're not good moms. Not good moms, as in they don't go broody. Ducks have to kind of hormonally change to sit on their own eggs. None of ours have done it. It's rare in this breed of duck that we have, Cocky Campbells. Well, 2 days ago, one of the ducks refused to go in for the night. And I found a nest of 10 eggs under our coop. It's kind of raised on breeze blocks. She wouldn't go in for the night, which I didn't know this. My husband put them away. The next morning, we got them out. The next night, she was still sitting on the eggs. This is when I found out, and my husband said, oh, last night she wouldn't go in too. So she's at least 3 days in to sitting on a nest of 10 eggs. So we might be in for round 2 of ducklings. I don't want to take them away because I don't know how long she's been doing it and how developed they are. So we might have more ducklings. We will see. Watch this space. They obviously won't go in the incubator, but they also don't make good mums. So if she gets off them at any point and decides she's done, which feels very possible, we will take them and put them in the incubator and do round 2, which was not my plan, but there we go. But we love our ducks for the drama and the fun and the eggs and the way that they have poop that fertilizes the garden. We really do love them. Just didn't plan on 2 sets that hate each other and then a potential 3rd set all in one season. One of the things that I think has made it harder, and this is such an evolving journey, but I am choosing to share it on the internet. This has felt like a very chaotic year for my brain. And we have a child who we are about to take through the pathway of diagnosing ADHD route, and the journey of figuring that out for a child has made me look at me and realize, which I kind of hate because it feels like such a trendy thing, or people perceive it as trendy to get an ADHD diagnosis. I've realized that I check so many points for ADHD. And as I look back through my life, I can see how if I do have it, it would explain so many decisions in my life. And it does not feel trendy to me at all. It's not something in a way that I want to have, but it is something that if it is affecting my brain and the way that I think and process, I really, really want to know, because I want to do the next phase of my life knowing and understanding and not feeling like I'm at war with my brain, which is how I've described my brain a bit over the last year. And there have been days where I've gone, if there was a medication to make me not feel this way, I would take it in a heartbeat. And so I don't have a diagnosis. I am going down the route to get one because I feel like I need more tools. I don't think I am living my best life with me and my brain. So we will see what that looks like. And I'm scared to put it out there because it honestly feels scary, the idea that I might not have it, than the idea that I might. Because if I don't have it, I feel very confused by so many things that I felt like, oh wow, now I understand this. But there we go. I'm telling you, because this is a journey, and I think neurodiversity is something a lot of people experience. And so either this is me or it's not me, and we'll see. But it's been a weird year for me and my brain, and a lot of internal processing, but we're going on that journey. So stay tuned. We'll see where I land. But it's also been a year of intense processing for me as I look at my youngest child going to school in September. Now, our kids are not full-time in school. We do 3 days in school and 2 days at home. We do a flexi school model, and I'll talk more about how it's gone because we're now over a year in. But in September, I will have my first days with all 3 kids at school in a decade. And it feels like a very big moment of motherhood, and it has loomed a bit for me in an interesting way. I thought I would be the mum that didn't want that moment to come. You know, the savor every moment, get every moment, it goes so fast, you're gonna miss it. I thought I would be more that, crying and counting down the days and not wanting to send my last child off to school. And I really have never identified with the people who are counting down, which I realize is a very privileged position to get to be home and not count down the days till they're back at school from a practical point of view. But I weirdly find myself not in that place, not in either camp, but kind of perfectly in the middle. Like, I'm just ready. Obviously, it's a big deal to send her off. There will be like a moment of, oh, you're not home with me anymore. But it feels very right. Outside of my kids, it just feels right for me. And as I felt some guilt in not being able to fully homeschool, that I had to process and now feel just fine with, I almost feel a bit of guilt that I am not craving to have them all at home, or that I am ready to send them out to school. But just me, I feel ready for another stage. And it starts in September. And we're gonna get honest here. So even just that, even just not crying my eyes out and counting down the days has given me a lot to process, and maybe a little bit of guilt. But I didn't always want to be a mum. I'm not someone who grew up wanting to be a mum, wanting to be married. That was not what I dreamed of in life. I dreamed of a career. And that is not the way I have spent the last 20 years. I have spent the last, 10 years as a mom. And I have loved every single minute of being home with my kids, being able to do that and being a mom. But at the same time, I really have this desire in me for a career. So as I have looked at our youngest going to school, it's been with a bit of a looming feeling of, what am I going to do when they go to school? Not feeling like I have to at all. And actually, in a number of moments, I've thought, I wish I was content being home with kids. I wish I was content doing that, because it would feel so much simpler for me. It would feel so much simpler than trying to figure out, what is this next phase of my life? What am I doing? What am I doing? Am I training for something? Am I going to university? What am I doing? And trying to find what is going to fulfill me. And I've had this brewing deep knowledge over the last few years that if I keep doing what I'm doing, being home with the kids, posting things on the internet, writing, it will bring me some level of satisfaction, but I will be a very bitter old person when I retire, because I just know this is not, it's not fulfilling me in a way that life is not going to continue to fulfill me long term. So I've known when my youngest goes to school, something is going to shift in life for me. And it's been kind of plaguing me in a way, trying to figure out what that is, and knowing I don't want to retire and be a horrible, bitter old person. I want to be happy and fulfilled, but I just don't know where we're going to land in that. The start date of school has been this weird thing for me that's really caused me to dig deep. And honestly, if you watched my ballerina farm video earlier in the year, that maybe was more drama than it was worth, but it actually came out of a year-long process for me. And I found, looking at her story and a lot of the, not necessarily critique of her story, but commentary on Hannah Nealman's story, which of course none of us exactly know other than what she has said. None of us know all of the influences and everything there, but looking at people unpacking it, I actually found really cathartic. And I'm not going to or ready to share on the internet, but I dropped out of university, which Hannah Nealman didn't, but she left a career. I was in a vocational degree to do veterinary medicine, and I left. And I think now, as I reflect, part of that may have been to do with ADHD. Part of it really had to do with religion. And I made a lot of choices in that time that I really regret. And I really regret leaving university. And that has been a lot for me to process, that I don't now at this phase in life have that career to go back to. I loved it. I could do it. I did well in my exams. But for various reasons, I took a year out. I was very stressed. Took a year out and I didn't go back. And so unpacking her story was actually very, very helpful to me to look at What have I believed in life about women and gender roles and parenting and careers, and what do I actually want to think about women in life and gender roles and careers, and what do I want and where does that sit for me? And I have an incredibly supportive husband who does not adhere to traditional gender roles, and so none of my process is at odds with him, which is incredible. But it's felt like a very big and deep process for me to unpack a lot of my early 20s and the fact that I left, and to kind of grieve that choice and then figure out, okay, what do I do now? And like I said, I'm not ready to put and dive into on the internet the whole of that story, but I'm determined to have a redo, as it were. And I saw a post on Instagram the other day, or a couple months back, that really impacted my journey. And this person said, if you were a character in a movie and you were watching the movie, what would you be screaming at your character to do? And it really hit me that I would scream at a character and feel and see more clearly for a character on the screen. Whereas when I'm looking at my own life, it feels confusing. And what are these things? All these different factors, and the past, and guilt, and regret, and excitement, and passions, but kids, and life, and now I'm not 18, and age, and all these different things. And then go, okay, if I was watching a movie of my life, what would I scream at the camera to do? And that has been so helpful for me. And so I think I have made some decisions about what my life will be come September, which I will share in a different video because I'm not ready to share that on the internet. But the process has been a really deep one for me in figuring out, okay, this is the next phase of my life. I do not want to be staying at home as a mother. I think that is the most valid and brilliant career. It's just not one that makes me happy. So what is going to make me happy in this next phase? Whew. Okay, that was a little honesty. What else is happening in our life? Okay. Well, let's touch on the flexi school piece. So we pulled the kids out to homeschool, so a year and a half ago, a little less, to try homeschool because I just wondered what it would be like. Well, it wasn't for me. And it probably was less for me than it was for our kids. They probably could have coped better than I could have coped, which again, had to process some guilt there. I apparently had a belief that I should be able to homeschool my kids and be happy. And I had to work through that and go, nope, it's okay. But our school head principal offered us flexi schooling. And so we've been trying it out for the last year, and it's been really interesting. And so they're in school Monday through Wednesday, they're out of school Thursday and Friday. And some of people's biggest questions are, did you ask for that, or did the school offer it? How do you get that? Everyone in the UK can ask their head for it. So that's that. You have to be able to prove or set out why it would be beneficial to the child. And so we had to do that. It was different answers for both of our kids, and then a different answer for our third kid, who will go in on the same structure. But the school agreed to kind of on a trial basis. And for a year, we have seen it in operation. We've stayed very close with the school, meeting every month or month and a half to talk about what's working, if there's anything that's not working, what we're seeing, to kind of monitor the process and what it looks like. One of the FAQs I get is, do the school tell you what to do on the days off? No, they don't. But we do have a very well set out timetable with learning objectives and things like that, so that we can see what they're not getting on the days that they're home and figure out how we're going to replicate it, which my go-to has been very rigid, structured curriculum, because it makes me feel safe. And so we've done some of the Good and the Beautiful curriculum, we've done some Oak National Academy curriculum, and we've kind of mirrored what's happening in school. But my challenge to myself over the last term has been more to lean into the flexi part of flexi schooling, and to lean more into what the kids love, rather than just doing the rigid curriculum thing. And it feels scary to me, but it also feels like embracing the beauty of both, of doing things both ways. So for the last term, for geography, We've been pulling in some different things, some writing, some dictation, but each week we have been looking at a country around the world. And so we've incorporated drawing with drawing flags or maps or other things. We've incorporated obviously the geography, the history, looking at, you know, the climate and animals and people groups, and then some religions in different places. And then we've looked, you know, so then I will do dictations for them, so they're writing and doing grammar and spelling. We've done some creative writing out of that. We've done some art, looking at art from different places, food from different places, and that's been more off-roading from traditional curriculum and trying to pull in, really going after what the kids want to go after. My son picked Saudi Arabia because that was a country he has been fascinated by, and so we dug into Saudi Arabia and all the things that were interesting to them about Saudi Arabia, drew the flag, and it's been really beautiful to me to see what comes out of them when we follow their curiosity in learning, obviously within still needing to adhere to the curriculum a good amount, and we do their maths very by the curriculum. So I'm trying to find the right balance of exact traditional curriculum and then going a little bit off-road to embrace the flexibility of slightly less traditional learning under the safety umbrella, which feels like a gift of a safety umbrella of flexi schooling. So they're in school and the teachers will tell us if we're failing. But so far, actually, it's been only positive results back, which makes me really happy. The kids are thriving, especially for our more neurodivergent child. The response has been very positive. That having a bit less time in school has been a very, very positive thing. So that has made my heart really happy that this feels like it's a good fit for our family. So we will start the third child off on that in September, which will give me 3 days a week with no kids at home, 2 days with kids at home. That is what we're looking at. We've loved the last year. It's been, yeah, it just feels like the perfect balance for our family. So that's the flexi update. Okay, not many more things, maybe 2 more things. We are almost at 1,000 days of no new clothes, and I kind of want to do something for hitting 1,000 days. I thought like maybe we do a podcast with some people. I would really just like a short series podcast with some people that can weigh in on that conversation of not buying no new clothes, but also the massive things that I have learned along this journey. To me, I thought it was all about clothes, just about stopping buying new and buying secondhand. But wow, has it been deeper than that. And it has really, yeah, been another deep process for me, another one of realizing a lot about confidence and how confidence, when you don't have high street style and trends to shop from in the same way, because you're not buying the new clothes that are in the stores right now, you're buying secondhand from decades past. Like, is it from 2024 or 2020 or the 90s or the 80s? I have pieces from all of those decades, from all of those eras, and you have to find your own internal style. But that takes a lot of confidence to go outside of what is now and what is in. And it's really made me think about how we find our confidence. But it's been so good for me. And while I am still in the process, I do not feel like I have my style nailed down. And I'm trying to get there slowly, and I'm trying to get there on a budget. I made a whole video about doing 2 years when we were at 2 years, so I'll put that below as well. But it's a brilliant process, and I am so thankful that I'm going on it. And kind of, it often makes me want to just buy a ton of things to go, oh, now I've got all the pieces that make me feel like I'm living out my style. But actually, I don't think any of our problems are solved by just buying more stuff, even if it's secondhand. So I'm trying to go slowly, but we're getting there. And it has been a surprisingly brilliant and deep process that I'm very thankful for, even the parts that have nothing to do with sustainability and not buying new clothes. But we are now nearly 1,000 days in. So what should we do for being 1,000 days in? There are some people I would love to do an episode with that I feel like could really help to give words to some of what has happened on this process for me. So maybe we'll do that. That's kind of my dream to do that, but I don't know if we have the time to make it happen, but we'll see. I would love to. Okay. Oh, my last thing. Okay. This is going to probably make some people mad. I posted a silly reel on July 4th my husband's American, my kids are half American, and I posted something just, it was like a little funny thing, which I don't usually do, but anyway, I posted it. And I had someone say, I loved your content until it got political. And now I'm unfollowing because I deal with enough of that in daily life, which, hey, we all deal with enough divisiveness in daily life. I so hear that, and we all need an escape. So at this point, it's just really an inside of my brain chaos catch up. I don't always know what to bring to the internet and how much of different things to bring and how to do it. Things that I really care about. I have niched my channel. Some would say not enough, that currently you need to be all about no new clothes or all about budget food or all about garden, and I can't do that. I am more than one thing, but I've kind of kept it all on this conscious consumerism thing. But then sometimes I talk about other things too, because I'm also a human and I want to bring in other things. But then I think a lot about all the people that I'm talking to, and about if I talk about one thing that's slightly outside of my niche, then I want to talk about everything that's outside of my niche, because how can I value one thing over another? Or if I talk about one people group who are struggling, then what about all the other people groups? And I don't always know the right answer or how to do it. And especially on Instagram, through the years, there have been so many different ways people show up. It used to be faceless. You didn't show your face on Instagram. It was just food, if you were doing that kind of thing. I just showed plates of food. And then there was stories, and then there was reels, and it was all about still photos, and then it was all about video, and suddenly people had names and faces where they hadn't had names and faces before. And at different points, it's felt like the way to do it is to do it in different ways. And I don't know what the right way is, but over the last 2 years, I have been vocal on Instagram, never really here apart from in shorts, about the situation in Gaza. And I don't know all of everything. No one does. And I think we really have to be able to admit what we don't know. But what I do know is that we have some things there that we need to solve. And as long as our tax dollars or where we bank or the way we consume is affecting that situation, I feel even more invested in doing the right thing. I think a lot about how our neighbor is not just someone who lives next door to us anymore. So many religions and ways of life subscribe to that idea of loving your neighbor. And that phrase has been kind of my guiding light for decades. The idea that loving our neighbor is like loving people, next in the supply chain, or the people that touched something we buy before we have it, or that, picked the tea that now I drink. And they're not next door to me, but they're next door to me in the steps of life, And so how do I treat them right? And I don't always know how to make a difference in the best way. And my goal is to make a difference. And I don't always know what moves the needle. And I don't always know how to show up and how to talk about so many different things that matter. And how do you put, like currently as I'm recording this, so many people are now sharing about Gaza. And we made cake balls this week. They were so good. Boozy cake balls. We took leftover cake because it's my daughter's birthday. Then 48 hours later, it's my husband's birthday. So he gets recycled cake. And we took whiskey and mixed it in with the cake and then dipped them in chocolate and made these boozy cake balls. And I was going to make a reel that said, this is your sign to take leftover cake and make boozy cake balls, and was going to talk about food waste, which is so important and impacts humans and the environment and climate change and all of these things. But in the moment, it felt a bit like the kind of Marie Antoinette let them eat cake, that there is this suffering and famine and aid blockades or whatever it is. There is a problem. And then I have too much cake, not just cake, but too much cake. And I don't always know how to show up in that, how to talk about things that matter, because my goal is to only talk about things that matter. But you got to put a bit of life in the middle to make people care about the things that matter. I don't know. I don't really know what I'm saying, but my heart is to show up in a way that helps people take the next step, that helps make it feel simple. I always say that's my goal. Lower budget, more simplicity, but taking care of people and planet. Lower footprint living, but less complicated and more budget friendly is my goal. And our footprint looks like so many different things. And sometimes I don't know how to bring them all in, and how you put death of a huge amount of a population next to food waste and a cake bowl. I don't know how to do it. So, but I want to. I want to do it well, and I'm always analyzing and thinking, and then you look at numbers, because so many people would say you need to do this, and then I go, I could do that, but no one would listen. And so you're kind of looking behind and going, okay, I can say things that some people would want me to say in a certain way, but then no one listens. So is it better to do it another way where more people listen and you can actually get a message out and convey something? Well, I don't know. But anyway, that's going around in my head a lot at the moment, and I want to do it well, and I want to share well. So that's just really a bit of my heart there, with no big take-home point, no question, but just sometimes I don't know how to do it well, but I'm trying. I think that's probably enough. My hands are still tingling. They're going to be tingling for days, but at least my garden has fewer nettles in it. But do hit subscribe if you want more videos actually about little steps that we can take to lower our impact in the way that we consume and the way that we live, that hopefully make lower footprint living less complicated and more budget friendly. Hit subscribe and you will get one about each week. A couple that you might want to watch now. This is about banking and how banking actually is a great way that we can, and how banks actually do things with our money. And so it's a really, really great way to change our impact just with where we bank. There's a money off coupon there if you're in the UK or the US. But we also use it as a tool for budgeting. Monzo, it is incredibly helpful. Highly recommend. That's that one, how we use Monzo for budgeting and why. Absolutely love. If you want to watch more about the No New Clothes journey, that one is here. It's been such a deep and brilliant one for me. Again, all about sustainability and ethics, but it came about something so much deeper. And below, I will link a few more about Flexischool and ducklings hatching and the garden and things like that. So you can just keep watching if you want. And if not, I will see you in another video sometime soon. Thanks for joining.